Welcome to the Thriving Mayor Show. Conversations with people making the biggest difference in the quality of living in our towns and cities, including former and current mayors and other special guests. Each interview features their wisdom, unique perspective, stories, and experiences shared in a casual conversation. Join us and comment on social media as we meet another leader in the life of our urban places. Hello, everyone. It's Michael Hubicki, the host of the Thriving Mayor Show. It's October 13th, 2021, on episode 35 of the show. And I'm very, very honored and thrilled today to have one of Canada's newest senators, Senator Karen Sorensen, and former Mayor of Banff, Alberta, on the show. Welcome, Senator Karen.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
It's wonderful to see you today, and congratulations on your selection to the Senate. That's just fantastic.
It's thrilling, to say the least.
Yeah, amazing. Just so everybody knows, this show was pre-recorded. It actually is the day after the federal election, and George Hume was on this morning. He called it an echo parliament. So I think not a lot changed, but we're through it, and we're moving on. If any, we always welcome social media posts either during the show or afterwards, and we do our best to respond to those. I'll begin this episode by honoring the land and the Indigenous peoples who've lived here from the beginning. I'm grateful for the opportunity to live here and thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land in the Bay of Quinte for thousands of years. In particular, I honor the ancestors of the land, the Anishinaabeg and Haudenosaunee peoples. This territory is covered by the 1783 Crawford Purchase. Senator Karen, I was wondering if you'd like to also share an acknowledgement of your Indigenous lands and peoples.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. I really believe that acknowledging land is part of a change process and part of an act of reconciliation for sure. So Banff is proudly located on the side of Sleeping Buffalo Mountain. Here in the Bow Valley, we live, work, and play on the traditional territory of the people of the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta, shared with us by the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina First Nations, the Stoney Nakoda Nation, as well as the Métis region, the Métis Nation of Region 3 of Alberta. We are all treaty people here, and we have the opportunity and responsibility to sincerely understand our history and the spirit and intent of Treaty 7 so that we can go forward knowing the truth of the past, be aware of the present, and build on a great future of peace and friendship.
Wow, thank you so much. That is a beautiful acknowledgement.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful.
And heartfelt. I think it's important when we do acknowledgements that they don't just come across as something you repeat all the time. And so, I worked on that one.
Yeah, it's lovely. I also, and while you were sharing yours, I did feel that emotion myself too, and I'd really want to make a very concerted effort to learn more and to be a change agent to help with truth and reconciliation for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Agree. I guess as we get into my new role, we can maybe talk a little bit about that and how we accomplish that.
Lovely. After being selected to the Canadian Senate, Senator Sorensen has recently resigned from her third term as Mayor of Banff. She previously served as a municipal councillor for 6 years and as a school board trustee for 4. After a successful 17-year career in the hotel industry in Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta, she founded Catalyst Enterprises Consulting in 2000, providing customer service and sales training in the hospitality industry and sharing her expertise as a keynote speaker. At the municipal level, Senator Sorensen served as a chair of the town of Banff's Governance and Finance Committee and on the Banff Lake Louise Tourism Board. In 2005, the senator was named Alberta Centennial Ambassador. She's a recipient of the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal and YWCA Banff 2019 Woman of Distinction Award. Senator Karen holds a Bachelor of Arts in Geography from the University of Guelph. Wow, what a and I didn't read everything, but wow, what a bio. And then to top that off, this year as well with the selection to the Senate.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a great journey, and as I said, to be at this point in my life and have this opportunity is truly well, humbling and very exciting.
That's amazing. So I just wanted to share a couple of fun facts. You're our fifth guest on the show from Alberta,
Oh,
along with Mayors Albert and Colberg from Lloydminster and Drumheller. And we've had two authors, George Cuff and Ian McCormick, who are also in Alberta. And so I think Alberta now has taken the lead in the provinces of most guests on the show, which
nice.
is really fun. And just going back to talking about Banff is probably one of my first family holidays. And I had three sisters. My folks had three sisters, and my folks took us. We traveled a lot. We actually went to Europe for about, I think, 6 weeks when I was 10 or 11,
Wow.
and that trip still sticks in my mind as so powerful. But almost every holiday I've ever had in Banff, I remember driving up into the mountains and into the main street, and whether it was the summer or the winter, it was hiking or it was skiing, cross country or downhill. It's such a spectacular setting and wonderful town. And I haven't been recently, but I've had friends that say it's so well protected and managed and preserved, and it has this incredible vibe and feel to it, which I still remember as a young kid.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, and it's a beautiful place to raise a family. And again, you know, a lot of people never get to see the community that is here, and there is a community when you get off Banff Avenue, a real solid community of people who work and live here and
Yeah,
raise our babies.
yeah. Beautiful. Share with us, Senator Karen, some of your favorite pastimes and things that you like to do in Banff, and it's such a beautiful setting.
So, you know, everybody assumes like I'm a big skier. I'm not a skier. I did ski early in my life in Ontario,
Yeah,
and did ski a little bit when I first came out here. But you know, I do a lot of walking, which is predominantly around my mental health. I just find that's a really great way to do that, and have become much more involved in hiking in the last few years, and have really enjoyed that with a couple of friends who see hiking the same way I do. It's not a race to the top. It's
yeah.
the enjoyment of the journey heading up there. I do really enjoy reading, and I guess I would have to say that my favorite pastime is spending time with my own family. I have a husband of over 30 years. I'm trying to remember the exact one, and we've raised two sons in Banff together. My husband has a third son who's in California, and we recently welcomed a new daughter-in-law to our family a year ago. So
Wow,
that's really
congratulations.
my favorite thing, is to hang out with the kids and my husband at home and enjoy each other.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I note that the absence of politics in there.
Yeah, I guess some of the
Wonderful
reading
fun.
I do may fall into that, but yeah, no, I do try and step away when I can.
Yeah, oh, that's wonderful. Share with us, kind of as mayor, a councillor and mayor in Banff, the unique perspective of being an elected official and then the mayor in the town, which is in, I think it's Canada's first national park, is it not?
Absolutely. Banff National Park is Canada's first national park, the world's finest national park. Um, it is truly unique, and I don't use that word lightly. The only other municipality that would resemble Banff is Jasper, and
Mhm.
Jasper is a municipality that is also in Jasper National Park. We are the only municipalities and national parks in North America, and I should have done more research to know if, in fact, in the world, but I definitely in North America. No other national park has a town, an actual self-governed municipality right within the national park. So there's lots that differentiate us, but perhaps the most interesting to viewers is, first and foremost, we're on a set footprint. So
Right.
we We don't expand outside of the space that we have. We're less than 1% of Banff National Park, and that is how we stay. So I always get a bit of a giggle when people say, oh, Banff is growing so much. No, it hasn't. It hasn't grown at all. It's changed, and things may look different, but we have not grown. We're not allowed to grow. When we have traffic congestion, we don't get to just go build a ring road around the town. We don't get to go put a 1,000-car parking lot, just out into the park. So we have a set footprint, and that in itself is unique. We also have what's known as a commercial cap. So we only have so many square feet that are allocated to commercial activity, and we are at build out. And again, I know no other municipality anywhere that is at build out commercially. Now, a person who has a business or owns commercial infrastructure here can certainly reinvest in it and change it and renovate it, but you'll never see another large hotel go up, or you'd never see a number of chain stores. Like, we'll never see a Walmart or Canadian Tire in Banff. So we have a commercial cap, and of course, therefore, commercial square footage is valuable. And lastly, something most people may not know is if you want to live in Banff, you have to work in Banff National Park.
Oh.
So you can own a home here. You can come and own a home here, but you can't live in it. And the residences that we have in Banff need to be used for those people who are here to serve in our service center to visitors. So you'll see no Airbnbs here, no VRBOs. We have bed and breakfasts. We just don't have that model. You'll see no, for lack of a better term, timeshare. You can't come to Banff and sort of buy part and weeks, et cetera, et cetera. So that's pretty interesting, people. We call it the need to reside. And you'd need to have employment in order to live here. And lastly, which I like to tell all Canadians, is we do not get special financial treatment from the federal government or from Parks Canada. In fact, we pay to reside here. We pay land rent every year to the federal government. Banff pays $550,000 a year for our lease to be on these lands.
Wow. And that rule about having to live there, is that municipal or is that federal?
That's a federal rule. That's in our incorporation agreement. Yeah.
Wow. So that would come from not Parks Canada, but I guess.
So it is Parks Canada. Parks Canada falls under the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. So Minister, I assume still, I know we're the day after the election, Minister Wilkinson is our current Minister of Environment and Climate Change. And so Parks Canada falls into that portfolio. But our any conversations we have, et cetera, are dealt with Parks Canada, the CEO of Parks Canada, and then we have our own superintendent and system here.
So if I own a property in Banff, but I don't live in it, can I vote?
Wow. No, you need to be a resident.
Okay.
I had to think that through for a minute. That was a good question. No, you need to be a resident of Banff for X number of months. Yeah. No.
Wow. And I think, there's an election coming up in October in Alberta.
Yeah.
And you had already decided that you weren't going to run again.
Absolutely. I served as mayor for 3 terms, and so 2017 was my last municipal election, and I said at that time that I would not be running again, and that remained my feelings. It has been a interesting term, to say the least. Yeah. However, then when I was appointed to the Senate, that made that stepping away that much easier.
Wow. Yeah, I guess so. Well, let's change gears a little bit and tell us. I believe you grew up in Orangeville, Ontario.
Yeah.
Up north of the GTA, and back in those days, growing up, did you envision that you were going to have this kind of career in politics and leadership and such a significant influence?
I was happily, growing up in Orangeville. My first job was at the Orangeville Dairy Queen, and for anybody who knows Orangeville, that's when the population was maybe 15,000.
Yeah.
And I remember the first McDonald's arriving in Orangeville. So I was born and raised in Orangeville, went to elementary school there and Orangeville District Secondary High School. And then I did go to the University of Guelph. So no, I never thought about a life in politics. I actually wanted to be a zoologist,
Oh, cool.
and my goal was to work with marine mammals. However, that didn't pan out in university. I needed calculus or something. But aside from that, what I will say growing up, and I have reflected on this, I always loved committee work.
Oh, yeah.
So I can even remember in elementary school, like whether it was a student council or in high school, I was on the Girls Athletic Association. So I was always drawn to being involved and sitting at a table making decisions under whatever capacity we were
Yeah.
in at that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but no, I never imagined politics.
So what was the trigger point or the role model or that light bulb that finally went off and said, I got to run for council?
It was a bit of a journey. I do like to tell the story. When I was 14, going back, I guess, to my Orangeville days, my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, and I came out west on our Western Canadian vacation,
Yeah.
and came to Banff. And we'd gone up on the gondola, up Sulphur Mountain on the gondola, and we were standing looking over the town of Banff. And I was standing with my mom, and I said to my mom, I'm going to live here one day. It
Wow.
just hit me, and I have a very vivid recollection of that. And it was beautiful, and I love the mountains, and we were on vacation, and we were having a good time. But I still feel it was kind of an unusual thing to say. So I don't know if that was what sparked it, but I did come out west. When I was in university, I worked at the Columbia Icefields. I had jobs in Banff quite regularly. I managed to find a local to wed, and he had been in Banff from the time he was 2. His family had immigrated from Denmark. And so then, we just got into life, and I was in the hotel industry, and I first was a school board trustee.
Yeah.
And that was my first election, and that had a lot to do with kids and wanting to be engaged in the education process. And then I decided at some point that I wanted to be a councillor. And, we can get into how I sort of went from councillor to mayor, but then it just became a huge part of my life, and eventually my life.
Yeah, yeah. And you had elections. You had to campaign
Yes.
in your council seat, but your first term as mayor,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
were appointed.
I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was acclaimed.
Oh, acclaimed. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Would have been if you. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that is true. So I just sent my friend who because our nomination day cut off yesterday for council and for school board, and a good friend of mine has been a school board trustee, and so I just saw somewhere on social media or something that she'd been acclaimed, and I said, "Man, best way to get elected."
Yeah.
And many may not agree with that. Elections are very important, people having choice, but I'll tell you, just as a candidate, it was a nice feeling that one time in my life to be acclaimed. But I had worked, so I ran for council first in 2004 and then 2007, and I worked with the same mayor, Mayor John Stutz, and he had already decided into that second term that he wasn't running for mayor again. So he and I had some conversations quite early on, at least a year out before the term ended. And he was very complimentary and said he thought that I should go for it. And so I did. And as I said, was able to manage to be acclaimed in my first term. That's not how it looked the second and third term. The other thing that happened in Alberta, we went from a 3-year term to a 4-year term. So my years are a bit weird. So 2004, 2010, 2013, and then 2017, and now 2021. So yeah, I've been 17 years on town council.
So what going back over those campaigns, is there one that really stood out as a bit of a nail biter, and it was kind of a barn burner right down to the last minute, or were they all pretty clear sailing?
No. Well, the first one was, and the second one, it was pretty normal to be a 2-term mayor in Banff, and I was the incumbent. I only had one person running against me, and same in my third term. I only had one person running against me. In both those instances, I had very different values. And so we were diverse in how we presented.
Right.
And I would say in both instances, especially the third one, there was the big message of, we need change. I say you only need change if there's a problem. So if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So I would say the third, my final term, last term, 2017, was probably the biggest nail biter for me because it's risky. It's, I wasn't sure I was going to run again for third term. No, Banff had never had a third term mayor. The longer you're in service, the more people dislike you. And so I was nervous, but I wasn't done. And I really did go back and forth a bit. But at the end of the day, I thought, no, I have some very specific goals for this next term. I haven't finished what I set out to do, and I was lucky enough to be successful for a third term.
Yeah, congratulations. So those projects, initiatives that you still wanted to finish in that third term, were they kind of from way back from the beginning, or over time as you start getting things done, and the needs of the community, I guess, and opportunities change? Did those things that you wanted to address in the third term, were they fairly new?
No, they weren't actually, but they were ongoing, and I had very specific goals. So first and foremost, we have an incredible transit system in our funny little town here, and we signed off and became the first regional transit commission in Alberta back in 2010. Mayor Stutz actually signed off on that, but it was in 10, and then I became the mayor in 10. So we envisioned this transit system, and I'll explain where we are today, which is exactly where we were trying to get, but it has taken many years. So first of all, we've always had what's known the Happy Bus in Banff. So you can jump on for a couple bucks and get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So that was our first goal, but we rebranded as Rome Transit. We had all electric buses. They're beautiful. And we started to operate Rome Transit in the town of Banff. The next goal was to get those coaches operating between Banff and Canmore, which is about 15 kilometers down the road. But we see about 1,000 people a day that live in Canmore that work in Banff. And we have the Legacy Trail, which is a great bike trail between the two. And people like to jump on the bus and get their bike on the bus and then ride the other way, etc. So we got that going, and that was great and very successful. And we've been able to up that schedule to every half hour, etc., etc. Then, thankfully, my good friends in Canmore came along, and they have now started transit within their own community. So we have a lot of people here who don't have cars. Cars aren't really necessary, but we do use a lot of services in Canmore. So now people can get on the bus, get to the Sharper's Drug Mart, get to the Canadian Tire, and then come home again. And finally, it was to get Parks Canada to start moving our coaches out into the national park. And Parks Canada, has different rules and regulations to follow than we as municipalities do. So it took some time. But in 2017, which was the 150th anniversary of Canada, Minister McKenna at the time decided that we would have free admission to all the national parks across the country. And while that sounds like a really good idea to the visitors, we were like, what? So we were already dealing with, visitor growth and vehicular growth. And so I have a lot of admiration for Minister McKenna, who, came out, listened to us a few times, and that was the catalyst to get our coaches operating out into Banff National Park. And now Rome Transit, in my mind, but it did take these last, 4 years to get it there fully. And so we now have transit in the park, in the town of Banff, between Banff and Canmore, in Canmore. We actually have a partnership with an organization in Calgary trying to bring people in by coach from Calgary on the weekends. So that was the vision. And today I feel that we have done a great job with that. Quickly, the other one, we've had a housing crisis here forever. We have a lot of staff that come from away. It's their first time away from home. 56% of our population is under 35.
Wow.
And all these lovely people from all over the world need to be housed. And that has been a crisis. We had a 0% rental vacancy rate for 3 solid years. And that's not unusual. I'm sure over years it has been that before. So we got really busy, and we secured some land from Parks Canada. We built TNU, which is 132 units, rental units, which are listed as affordable under market value.
Yeah.
And we also changed a lot of our land use bylaws to allow private developers to build density housing with some incentives to lower their costs. So I believe we're sitting at least a 2% vacancy rate right now. So that was my goal, to get to a 2%. A healthy community has a 3 to 5%, and I'll leave that to the next mayor.
Yeah, something that they can look forward to.
Exactly.
I just wanted a clarification. You mentioned Rome Transit. Is that what is? Could you explain the name of it and what that means?
So first of all, ROAM.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Right, not ROME.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's branded completely to roam through Banff National Park, through the Bow Valley. And feel free to Google and look up the pictures. All of our coaches are branded with amazing wildlife photography. The entire bus is covered. So we have, the elk bus, and we have the wolf bus, and we have honestly, the most beautiful one is, to me, is the fish bus. We have these beautiful photos of some of our trout that we find here. So you sure know when a roam bus is coming towards you, and they're beautifully branded, and I'm just so proud of it. The town of Banff alone, and again, keep in mind, at normal times, we have a population of maybe 9,000. We see 4.5 million visitors a year, over a million, 1.2 or 1.3 million riders on only the Banff routes. And so it's working, and we're proud of it. And I do lift it up as probably what I consider my proudest accomplishment, and not by any means that I did this alone. I'm very happy that a majority of council in all my terms have continued to support it, because transit is not inexpensive.
Well, and I remember going into Banff, and I have friends in Canmore. Actually, one of the last times I was out, it was maybe September 10th, and like maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
We left Canmore in flip-flops and shorts and hit a snowstorm.
Yeah.
So we got to Banff, 50 kilometers away, and there's a foot of snow, and okay, time to turn around.
Go back to Canmore where it's warm. Yeah.
Well, by that time, it snowed too.
Yeah. We pretty much get the same throughout the Bow Valley. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And my dad did Outward Bound.
Oh, yes.
Back in the 80s, and he was on the cover of Maclean's magazine doing the rope traverses at Ptarmigan Peak.
Yeah.
Which I think is close to Banff.
Yeah.
And, so I have this beautiful print now at my house that he brought back from his trip to Banff. And
wow.
Yeah, he still talks about that, his experience in Banff, and it's such a wonderful, wonderful place.
We make a lot of memories for people, and whether you were here as a child on vacation, or you brought your family here on vacation, or you were a young person who came out on spring break skiing, and I think some of the most solid memories for Canadians, and I'm sure many of your viewers will nod their head, is that they came and they worked here. From Quebec, from Eastern Canada, from Ontario, from Saskatchewan. They came here, and they it was their first time away from home, and they might have worked at the, then CP, Banff Springs Hotel, now Fairmont, now Accor, Banff Springs Hotel. So many people have such great memories of their first experience away from home being in this community. And we work very, very hard to support that demographic.
Yeah, that's otherwise known as the Springs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So many of my high school friends went out and spent the winter there skiing, and they just loved it. It was life-changing.
Yeah. And of course, now the world's so small, again, pre-COVID and hopefully soon, all kinds of Australians, New Zealanders, Brits, Germans. We have youth from all over the world here, and it's such a joy. It keeps you young.
Yeah. One of the funny stories I have from university in Winnipeg was myself and a Winnipegger and an Australian got in my little VW.
It sounds like a joke.
It kind of ended up as a joke, but it wasn't funny at the time. We jumped in my little VW Rabbit. We drove across the prairies, and there was a snowstorm. But the Trans-Canada Highway, you could just tell it by the snow was blowing sideways. There was a little bump in the highway, and then another bump. That's where you drove. Right. In between the two bumps, and we skied for I think 4 days. Had a riot, a ball, and coming back, it was at night. I think on a Sunday night to get back to school for Monday, and the Australian was driving, and we said, Peter, never let the gas gauge get below half. and we're in Saskatchewan, and it's I think March, but it was cold and windy.
Mm-hmm.
And he woke us up and said, "Guys, I'm sorry, but we're down almost to the bottom of the tank, and I didn't see any place to stop." And so we pulled into this little town in Saskatchewan, and we parked right across from the gas station.
Oh.
So actually, no, it would have been Saturday night because it was Sunday morning, and we waited and waited and waited, and nobody came to the gas station. And so we went into the bowling alley laundromat, which was also part of the same complex. It said, "When's the gas station open?" They said Monday. And I said, "Oh no!" So they called the owner, and he came and he pumped our gas, and we got. Yeah, it was.
But those memories, right? Those memories are just some of the best.
Yeah.
And again, also, small town Saskatchewan. Oh, I'll just call the owner. I know his number. He'll pop over here and fill you up. So that's great.
It worked great. I really admire your mindset, your positive growth mindset of running for mayor. And the first time, with it being acclaimed is pretty cool. But to go back and knowing that the mayor, there's only one elected, it's so impressive. And I wonder that when you're being considered for and considering being a senator, is it that kind of positivity and growth and being able to explore and really push yourself past what you think might be your boundaries is a super valuable asset to have being a senator.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of things I think in my past role, maybe some of my past roles, that will help me in this new opportunity that I've been given. Certainly, from a governance perspective, I will bring governance to the table and the understanding of governance, and frankly, what the role of governance is, which many people don't necessarily, understand if you haven't been in that position. I understand motions. I understand readings. I understand the time for a healthy discussion and debate. So all of that will, I think, serve me very well. And I think for me, one of the most important things at those times is to stay open-minded. And, people who are sitting in elected positions or appointed positions and on boards often have very strong feelings about something, and they believe they know how they're going to vote on something really before even going into the discussion. Everybody thinks that they know how they're going to vote. We all have opinions, we all have values, but probably one of the most refreshing things that would happen to me at the council table was when my mind would be changed. And there we are live at the table, and by the time I'm mayor, I'm calling the question, and I don't know how I'm going to vote, because somebody just said something that made me go, "What? I never thought of that." And so I think that is a really important thing to learn. Whatever table you're sitting at, under whatever circumstances, even though you're very, very certain that you know how you feel about something, you need to be open-minded enough to have your mind changed at the table. And if that means pause or defer or whatever the case may be, but I did learn that as a councillor and as a mayor, and as I hope, I trust it'll be a skill set that I'll continue to use and in fact enjoy. That moment of, oh wow, didn't think of that. Is really it's really an interesting moment.
But then to still be able to take that that new concept that sort of changed your paradigm, but then be decisive.
Yes.
Now that to me, that is a really special skill.
It's even more interesting when you've already stated your position, and then somebody comes in after you, and then you're like, oh, just a minute. I'm going to have to stop and rethink. And that was very convincing, councillor or your worship or whatever the case may be. So it's good skill sets.
And then in social media, it's the flip flop and
exactly.
The social media is just so trite so often, and completely irrelevant opinions and I guess not completely irrelevant, but it's not really news or factual objective. It's subjective, and
Yeah. You
So,
know, facts matter.
yes.
They really do. And I'll tell you, facts really matter in decision making. And for me, whether it's social media or even, you know, taking us back to letters to the editor or whatever the case may be, or reading a headline online and then commenting, you know, yeah, often it is just not knowing all the detail. And the real frustration is in some instances, you know, unless you watch that whole meeting, unless you watch that entire debate, unless you read the full report, the 300-page report, I did get to the point we finally started to stream our meetings live in Banff a few years ago, and you know, I can't help it. I'd see something on social media and going, it's just inaccurate,
Yeah.
and so I would go to the tape, find the section, post the link and say, and I wasn't, you know, I don't really Facebook as the mayor. I kind of Facebook as myself, but I say, look,
Yeah.
point of clarity. If you could just watch this from 1 hour, 13 minutes to 4 hours and 20 minutes, you will hear all of council debate and you will understand all of the reasons why people voted the way they did. And you
Yeah.
can still disagree, but just do me the favor of listening to it and not just commenting on the headline, you know, that you read from our local paper. So, yeah, technology can be your friend. I don't know how many people ever did it, but
Yeah, that's so much work to have to do as well, just to help educate people that
yeah,
sometimes don't even want to be educated.
yeah. There's a great term. A gentleman who I admire and follow on Twitter. He does a lot of work in urban design, and he said, "You're burdened with knowledge."
Mm.
And I just think that's a great statement. And I'll say that often people will, you know, ask something that seems, you know, maybe 5 feet instead of 3,500. I'll say, you know, I'm burdened with knowledge.
Yeah.
It's not a question of intelligence. It's not me telling you, you know, that I'm smarter than you. I, I'm just burdened with knowledge.
Yeah.
And the, you know, another challenge always is I will have to say to people, my effort here is to educate. You're going to hear it as defending.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to defend. I'm trying to educate on, I'm not trying to defend my position. I'm trying to educate you on why I have that position.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it can be challenging. And you're right, social media, it's really become, I'm on social media. I try to be careful.
Yeah. Someone said to me the other day, I think it was maybe Abraham Lincoln, said you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not
Not
entitled to
your
your own.
own. That is a
Yeah.
Karen Sorensen quote.
Yeah.
I use that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. So,
Just for your viewers, I keep seeing that my glasses are crooked, so I keep trying to straighten them. Sorry for the distraction.
oh, I do too.
Okay. Everybody
So,
must be used to this by now. Like the fact that you can actually see yourself while you're talking is a burden.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Remember the old days when recording our voices, we're like, oh, I hate my voice
Yeah.
on the
Yeah. Yeah.
tape
Now
recorder.
we're used to them.
Yeah, yeah. Um, some of the committees that you were on in Banff, or some of the projects included the environmental master plan, the community plan. You talked about transit, the human wildlife coexistence roundtable,
Hmm.
regional housing, and the Heritage Corporation. Um, and all of those are so absolutely critical in a normal town or normal municipality. But then something like the human wildlife coexistence environment, which is so interesting. It's so different in Banff. Can you share a little bit about your work in some of those areas?
Yeah, the coexistence group was interesting. It really was born out of the death of one of Banff's favorite bears,
Oh,
and you know, we do lose bears on train tracks and a few other things, but it was a very sad story. She wandered out of Banff National Park down towards Canmore. We moved her back. Well, I didn't. Parks Canada moved her back, but she wandered out again, and so they relocated her. They relocated her to BC prior to there being laws against shooting bears, and she was shot.
oh,
Yeah, so very sad story. Honestly, I get emotional every time I tell the story,
yeah,
but Her legacy is that this group was formed, and it was provincial, and it was federal, and it was Canmore and Banff and Kananaskis and Parks Canada, and we all got together. And you'll note the word is coexist, right? This is not about fencing people in or fencing animals out or any of those things. It's about coexisting, and it was a successful group. And we did come up with, I think over 90 tactics, and some applied to Banff, and some applied to Canmore, and some applied to Alberta Parks, and some applied to Parks Canada. But it was a great. It was a great initiative, and I was happy to do it. I think, just speaking about Banff, life in the first incorporated municipality within Canada's national park system is shaped in so many ways by our proximity to nature, and residents and visitors experience a life that is unique to Banff. The most fun we have at this time of year is going down to the golf course to hear the male elk bugle and see how many females they can round up. Yeah. And that elk bugle, it's a beautiful thing to hear on a fall night in Banff. But with this certainly opportunity, it comes great responsibility, and to steward the park for the environment and education for, of course, future generations. So that responsibility over decades and decades and has been borne by Parks Canada and the town of Banff since we became incorporated. Certainly the residents and the businesses and the visitors. Everything we do or build in Banff is subject to an environmental assessment.
Yeah.
You don't build anything without that process taking place. The town of Banff understands that it's vital, the vital environmental protection role, and we've set very ambitious plans accordingly. So you mentioned the Banff Community Plan. Yes, our environmental master plan is relatively new. And also in this past term, we finished the renewable energy transition roadmap. And all of that reflects envisioning a future. We always like to suggest that Banff is and needs to work harder at being a model for environmental management, sustainable development, and tourism. Right? Because, as I said, we see 4.5 million visitors a year, and that has an impact on our surroundings.
Wow. And you'd mentioned the word steward and stewardship, and then the renewable energy and environment. Do you know yet if your role as senator will allow you to promote those concepts and take that as I guess you said yourself that Banff is a role model, and you're a role mayor and now a role senator. So I'm wondering, is that something that you're going to be able to continue to promote and champion?
Yeah, I believe so. The thing about being an independent senator is you kind of get to self-designate and declare, where do my interests lay? And frankly, what platforms am I going to stand on in whatever committee work I do, whatever situation I'm in, whatever legislation is being passed, that we're reviewing. Where am I going to stand? What are people going to hear me say? And what are going to be my filters, if you will? So first of all, the Banff and the Alberta Rockies have my heart. And I just have so much admiration and respect for what we do out here in this part of Alberta that is different than the rest of Alberta. And I will always lift this area up as an important place in Alberta and in Canada. I have been asked very early on, whoever they are, colleagues, co-senators, administrators, people you're talking to, will say, you need to start thinking about exactly what I just referred to. So for sure, for me, climate action will be an area that I will have huge interest in. We have the Senate has committees that works on legislation. Now, whether or not I end up on that specific committee or not, now or later, doesn't mean that can't continue to be, a focus for me. I also have worked a lot with our Indigenous neighbors in Banff. I named our treaty bands. So Indigenous rights will clearly continue to be a focus for me. And then to sort of your point, and this is still developing in my mind, but we in tourism do have a frustration with not only in Alberta, but even in Canada, regularly hearing oil, forestry, agriculture, and I'm like, could we just choke out the word tourism? could we just add tourism to the repertoire, because it is an incredibly important industry. It generates, millions and millions of dollars of revenue, not only for Alberta, but for Canada. So I do intend to, I don't believe there's another senator who has what I would call a tourism background or be from a tourism destination. I actually believe it was one of the things on my application that lifted me up. So yes, that will become a continuous message for me. And interesting enough, the other two topics I mentioned can also fall into that, because tourism in a sustainable way is allowed conversation right now. How do we move people, fly people, accommodate people, feed people in a sustainable way? And so is Indigenous tourism.
Yeah.
And I certainly see Indigenous tourism as a great means for education, to continue to talk about, let's learn the truth so that we can move forward to reconciliation. And Indigenous programming within a tourism destination, particularly in Banff National Park, where the history is rich, it all kind of comes together in some weird way for me. So I think you're the first person that I've kind of publicly tried to put all those thoughts together. So that's where I'm heading.
Well, thank you very much for that. And I wanted to, well, personally, I think as well, like the arts and culture are all intertwined with that, but more from the local residents' perspective of getting that breadth of exposure and difference of opinions. And
it's funny. I was telling a friend that what I just sort of defined to you, and I feel like I was at a distance. They said, "Don't forget arts." I'm like, right, cultural tourism. So thank you.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's and my profession being a landscape architect, we design the land, and we design places for people to be and to thrive and to congregate along with nature. And it's such an important role now, I think, that we all have to embrace of the role of nature in climate action and promoting it, protecting it, managing it, promoting it, encouraging it, and starting at a household level, and then moving out into the broader, big parks and big pieces of land and things. So,
and Banff National Park, it's a case study. I have spoken at different resorts where they're having issues with population and part-time residents and water and building, et cetera, et cetera. And, I'm able to say that horse never left the barn here. We have never been allowed to grow. We have many guidelines and restrictions in place. And today we can say, thankfully so.
Yeah. Beautiful. Do you think your life is going to change very much being a senator now as opposed to being a mayor?
Yeah, it'll change a lot in a lot of different ways. I probably won't get stopped in the grocery store as often, although maybe I will. Certainly the travel. Listen, I'm a homebody. There's nothing I like more than being home in Banff. But I also really enjoy Ottawa. I won't name them, but there's only maybe 2 or 3 cities that I actually think I could be comfortable in, because I'm really a small town girl. But Ottawa's one of them, and I love Ottawa. I think it's a great city. So the travel back and forth that'll be different for sure. But there's work to be done on an airplane. Obviously, the topics of discussion are going to be completely different than what I'm used to. I talk about what roads should we snowplow first, and et cetera, et cetera. So the conversations will get to a bit of a higher level. Obviously, a whole new set of colleagues, which there are.
That's exciting.
Fascinating people on the Senate, fascinating. And I've managed to hire an EA, and I've just asked her to please start working on a binder for me so I can see everybody and actually understand who I'm working with. And, I was on the phone the other day with the past premier of the Yukon, and, just
amazing,
fascinating people. And as I've said a couple of times in this interview, it's just a whole new world. I'm 62 years old. I've had 3 careers, and I knew I hadn't reached my best before date. I knew I wasn't going to be the mayor again, but I didn't know what this was going to look like. I did, again, for people's knowledge, I did apply. I applied 2 years ago. This is an application process. But for the timing, well, first of all, I never assumed that I would ever be selected. I mean, hundreds apply within the provinces, thousands across the country. But to be selected at this moment in time, not only, certainly for me personally, I was able to step away from being the mayor relatively easily, relatively quickly. And obviously, in the current situation, I know we have the same government, but still it's a new government, it's a new sitting, and everything will be very fresh. So I've had this incredible gift of time to get my legs under me before we're actually called to sit.
And when will that be?
If you could call the prime minister, um, we don't know. We know, I think it's interesting. It was through this process that I finally learned where the term "get your house in order"
Yeah.
came from.
Wow.
So I found myself, and I don't even know if that's true, but I would say to people when they'd ask me, "Oh, when will you be going to Ottawa?" I'll say, "Well, the Senate's on summer recess, and then we have an election, and then the Prime Minister needs to get their house in order." And then I realized that actually is exactly what they're doing. They're putting their house in order. So nobody really knows how long that will take. Will it be faster because we're not transitioning that significantly, etc. So I've heard everybody say everything from sometime in October to sometime in November to sometime in December. So I'm willing. I am actually going to Ottawa next week, just to get some ID and photos and see my office and meet my EA in person.
Yeah.
So I'm going in for a few days next week. But when we're going to get called back to sit, I know no more than anyone else.
Yeah, wonderful. And I just wanted to congratulate you as well and acknowledge you for being such a wonderful and approachable example of a woman in a leadership role, which is so fantastic. And it's obviously it's like it seems super easy to me, for you, which is an incredible asset. And I don't think it's a skill. I think that's something that you've nurtured over time, and an amazing role model too.
Well, thank you. What a nice thing to say. And personally, gender has really never played a negative role in my life, but
Mhm.
that is not to minimize the fact that you just have to look at the number of women elected or sitting at high levels in organizations. So I appreciate it, and I do try to be a mentor, or I try to lead young women whenever I have the opportunity to do so. I'll be asked to speak I was asked to speak at a group in Calgary called Ask Her, and they're all women a few months ago who are considering running for municipal politics. And it is important. And I think even for younger women, our 10 to 16-year-olds or 18-year-olds, to see that, gender does not have to be an issue. And you know what? If I ever was prejudiced against as a woman, I didn't notice because I wasn't paying any
Wow.
attention.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So, and I do live in a community that's very gender balanced. Our councils are always gender balanced. We have a female CEO for Banff Lake Louise Tourism. We have a female president at the Banff Center. We have a female mayor, and there's a lot of us sitting around tables here.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we're at 52 minutes, Senator Karen. I thank you so much for this amazing chat, and I'd love to have you back on the show, maybe after you've been sitting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
For a while,
Yeah.
and we'll hear what it's actually like. And thank you so much for your gracious service to Banff, Alberta, and now to all of Canada. And would you like to share any last words with us?
Well, that's nice of you to say. I guess, for the viewers who are watching, or young people who are trying to figure out, how to get involved, your community is your community. And whether it's an actual municipality, or whether it's a school you're attending, or a group you belong to, or where you work, it's not an obligation to give back to your community, but it's an opportunity. And I've also learned that diversity, by the way, does not have to be dissension.
Yeah.
And that doing nothing is just not an option. So I will leave you with a favorite quote of mine, Albert Hubbard: "To avoid criticism, do nothing, say nothing, be nothing." And those are words I live by.
Wow. Thank you so much. What
My pleasure.
wonderful quote to finish with. I'd just like to remind people to leave social media comments or questions, and we'll do our best to get them back, to respond back to you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you again, Senator Karen. And enjoy the last little bit of summer at Banff before you're called to Ottawa.
Thanks, Michael. Much appreciated.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining the Thriving Mayor Show. Make sure to like and share and tell your friends and colleagues. Mayors are awesome and are the change agents to enhance the quality of living for over 80% of us. Remember what Coach Wooden said, you cannot live a perfect day without doing something for someone who can never repay you. Much love and peace. Until next time.